worker has been identified as the source of leaks about US surveillance programs. Edward Snowden has fled the United States to Hong Kong. The 29-year-old decided to reveal his identity in an interview with the British newspaper The Guardian. This after leaking information that American agencies had gathered millions of phone records and monitored internet data. Luke Trago has more.
Stepping out of the shadows, Edward Snowden says he's the whistleblower in one of the biggest US security breaches in recent years, motivated by his conscience and fed up of being Big Brother.
I think that the public is owed an explanation of the motivations behind the people who make these disclosures that are outside of the democratic model. When you are subverting the power of government, that's a fundamentally dangerous thing to democracy.
Snowden is the source for two major leaks in the past week. The Guardian and the Washington Post blowing the lid off surveillance operations on an unprecedented scale. The National Security Agency, the NSA, hoovering up data on hundreds of millions of mobile phone calls every day. And the PRISM program that allows the spooks to peer into servers for 9 major internet companies like Google, Yahoo and Facebook. The US says both programs are legal and have thwarted multiple terror attacks. Barack Obama calling it the payoff for heightened security. Snowden, though, insisted the safeguards in place were not sufficient.
Well, I, sitting at my desk, certainly had the authorities to wiretap anyone, from you or your accountant to a federal judge to even the president if I had a personal email.
Snowden claims to have worked for both the CIA and then as a contractor for the NSA. But he became disillusioned by Barack Obama's failure to halt the surveillance. Indeed, the Obama White House has prosecuted more whistleblowers than any other administration. A criminal investigation is already underway. Having fled to Hong Kong, Snowden could yet be extradited back to the US. After going public, Snowden now says he'll be looking for asylum in potentially friendly countries like Iceland.
And earlier I spoke to our international affairs editor Armin Georgian and asked him what is likely to happen to Edward Snowden.
His situation doesn't seem sustainable. Firstly, he's been in a hotel room for the last 3 weeks in Hong Kong. He's only gone out, he says, 3 times. He can't stay in that room forever. He's running up a big bill. It's an expensive hotel. He's eating meals in his room. He's going to run out of money. If he goes out, he says he could be kidnapped. How could that happen? He says, firstly, he's worried about being rendered by the CIA, or he thinks the US could use an intermediary, perhaps pay off a mafia group in Hong Kong to bundle him into a car. Essentially, one doesn't know what's going to happen next. As you said, there's an investigation started by the Department of Justice in the US. Would he be extradited? It's very hard to see that happening. If you look at the text of the extradition treaty between Hong Kong and the US, it says that Hong Kong can refuse extradition when that implies the defense, foreign affairs, or essential public interest of the People's Republic of China is at stake. So there's quite a lot of latitude for interpreting what that infringement on China's public interest would be. Certainly one could imagine that it would be almost unacceptable for Beijing for an extradition to go through, but equally one could imagine that him staying in Hong Kong indefinitely could become a major irritant in Chinese-US relations, but we'll have to see what happens, of course.
And South Africa's former President Nelson Mandela has spent a 3rd night in hospital for treatment for a lung infection. Officials say